The base class is now ready to go. So now we're going to need to convert our player to make use of this. This is what's referred to as refactoring, essentially restructuring existing code without changing what it does. We're aiming for the same behavior, but better organization and reducing overhead or reused variables, components, and things like that where possible. Now, I realized in the previous topic we've just gone through, I gave you instructions to create 2 new plain classes. There's one other thing which I realized in between that could be useful to be aware of and actually would save us a little bit more time. So what I'm going to recommend is we actually delete plain enemy and plain player. So we can grab these, shift select, and press delete. We haven't actually done anything in those anyway, so we're not losing anything, and at least you're aware that those options are available. What I would suggest instead is if we go to our plain base, and I'll just close these to not confuse things, we want to double click and open the plain base class that we have been working on. So make sure that you haven't deleted the plain base class. So with plain base still here, we didn't want to get rid of that one. What we want to do is we'll actually make use of the existing classes and we'll just move things around where we need them. So the first thing is to focus on our naming. If we focus on the player first of all, I'm going to rename this one to BP_plain player. And that's why we needed to delete those other classes, is so that we don't have naming conflicts. The class name was fine, but we can just do something quite smart here to make use of what we already have in this class. And we'll do the same for our enemy. So we'll grab this one and call this one BP_plain enemy. And then if we double click to open the BP_plain player, we can start making our changes in here. So the thing that I thought would be useful to know about is there's actually a really cool way that we can change what this class is classing as its parent. So at the moment we can see the parent class is pawn. If we come over here to the class settings, and then back in the details panel, we can see we have the parent class here, the dropdown is set to pawn. If we search for plain, we can change that to now be inheriting from BP_plain base. And this is actually quite a nice way to refactor things. One reason is that it will give us errors and warnings about code that may be duplicated. And we can kind of already see that. So if we look to the left-hand side, we can see we have 2 static meshes. Anything here which says edit in Blueprint or edit in C++ if you're working in a C++ project is an indication that this is inherited from a base class. So when you see this, we cannot come in, we can't grab the inherited ones and delete those. So they're stuck here. So what we want to do is we want to grab our static mesh _0. We don't need 2 different meshes for our plane, and we can delete this one. So we'll just delete that here. The other thing that we can see here is we have something called movement speed _0 in the variables. If we right click on this, we can go to the find references and we can find all of the current class members of this. If we double click this one, that will take us directly to where this is. So as I've mentioned, it's a nice quick way to be able to tidy things up because we can just use these shortcuts to jump around and find the remaining things that we might need to get rid of. And again, the reason this has been given an _0 is because we're aware that we have something called movement speed in the base class and we can't have the same variable even if it's in a child version of that class. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll delete this one. We'll just delete movement speed. This is just telling us that we're currently using this, but that's perfectly fine because we know where that is. And then all we want to do here is we're going to pull from here and we'll search for movement speed. And we can see here we want to get the movement speed variable. And this is the one in our base class, the parent class. And there we go. So that is pretty much it. That's the class kind of fixed up and ready to go. So we could definitely leave it here, but there's a few more things that we can make use of from the parent class. So the first thing we always want to account for is that on the begin play, and we need to do this on all of our functions essentially, but to begin on our begin play, we're going to right click on the node, and we want to find this option here, the add call to parent function. And we want to hook this up in between our current execution and the functionality we're already calling. This just ensures that the parent's begin play logic is also called when we start playing, meaning that if we had any universal logic, again, that we want to do on the parent class, that will also get called. Otherwise, this will only be called by itself and we'd ignore the parent's version. We want to do the same thing for the event tick. We're going to right click on this, add call to parent function, and then just hook everything up here, including the delta seconds. We might need to move some things around here. And then we can just plug this in over here. And again, tidy things up if you wanted. To try to help visualize this for you, the parent functionality will be called first. So for example, when our player first gets created, it will automatically have its event begin play get called once. And then we're going to immediately send a message to actually look into the parent version and see if anything's happening on that begin play. Navigate over here, we can open the parent blueprint with this shortcut here, and we can go to the begin play over here, and we can see there's no actual code at the moment. If we were to do something like pull a print string up of here though, we'd just say parent begin and keep that on screen for a moment. What would happen now is when we press play, we're going to see that parent begin is printed at the top. So we can confirm that our parent logic, the universal logic, is in fact being called. Now the problem of course is if we added this to the enemies, so if we go into the plain enemy class, we come into the begin play, we're going to want to do the same thing. We're going to right click, add parent call, and we'll plug this in here. Now, because we've got 3 enemies and 1 player, we're going to see that message 4 times because they're all calling that same function. Of course, we need to make the same change in the enemy class settings, change this from pawn to plain base. Okay, so we're doing the same thing. We're just reparenting what this class is inheriting from. Hit compile. So all 4 of them are taking that same process. Now this is fine in this case, But this is where you want to be careful and start making sure that you're considering what you're implementing. So this now wouldn't make sense if this message was saying something like, if this was specific to what the player should be doing, like shouting, I'm the player. If we hit compile, that means the plain player will call that, which is perfectly fine. But so will all of the enemies. So all three enemies are also saying, I'm the player, which is a little bit confusing. So this is where you need to be careful with inheritance. And this is why I keep saying that we want our universal logic in here. Anything which is just related to being a general plane is perfectly fine. So if this was every plane had to just announce itself and just say, I'm a plane, this would be perfectly fine because all four of them are indeed planes, as we can see. But we wouldn't want any code in the base class that was related specifically to the player. So hopefully that makes sense. And we can kind of start seeing how we can use inheritance and how we can share our features, components, and logic between multiple classes. And this is how we'll be handling the things like destruction. We're going to have the particle effects, the sound effects, all play in the parent class because that's not specific to any one plane. They all need to be destroyed in some way. But the things like the movement, which is slightly unique, we're going to handle that in the child classes instead. So going back into plain player, we're going to finish this one off first of all. A really quick way to take the code, which we know is already working, like I've mentioned, all we really want to do is make sure that we don't have this littered around, and we can make use of that function that we created a small while ago. So if we grab everything related to movement, so that's going to be these nodes here, calculation here, I'm just holding shift and dragging, and then the act allocation here. This is only related to rotation, so we're going to leave this one for now. What we want to do is we're going to press Control and X to cut, and we're going to click here to override the handle movement function. So we want the function that we made earlier, that empty space, and then we're going to press Control and V in here, and we're going to hook everything back up. So we can now ensure our movement function will always be called because we're calling our event tick, and if movement is enabled, then handle movement will also be called from that event tick. So again, we only need to call this function once here, and we can make use of that function call in our child classes. We've moved this, and I'm just going to come back into the event graph. We'll move this over for now, the rotation, and we'll hook this back up. And just testing as we go through, and like I've mentioned, this is more to show you how you might refactor code on your own if you needed to. And this is a very common process. We just want to test these little steps as we go, and we should still have the movement being enabled. So something's broken. Let me just double check what that could be. If movement's enabled, if that's true, we're calling our event tick. We have our handle movement here, movement speed. So I just realized we've got our new movement speed variable in the base class, but we haven't given that a value. So if we grab our class settings just here, this is actually going to give us access to the class settings when we select this topmost element here, or the class defaults. We can see the class defaults have the variables here, and we can see our movement speed. And I think I was setting this to 1000 in the player. So we'll set that back. And then we should be able to go and press play and move around. So we get the same movement, we get the same rotation, it all feels the same. We haven't changed the functionality. We've just tidied up our graph and where things are handled. So we're ensuring that this is called if and when we want to move. And another really cool benefit of this now is we could come in, we could disable movement enabled. So movement's no longer enabled. We can press play, and now we can't move the plane. That, of course, it breaks the rotation because we're now multiplying against a value that doesn't really do anything. But you can see the logic is there. We're kind of handling things as we want this to work. And all of this is now actually handled in the base class regarding the movement enabled and disabled states. And we're just leveraging that inside of the player version of that class. So make sure that we click this. We're going to make sure that movement is enabled for the moment. We'll be toggling that through the code a little bit later when we get to the animations. Now remember that I've said that we won't be adding things like the rotation or faking physics and things in the enemy class, which is why we're not reusing the movement code exactly. Another thing the enemies won't have is the actual rotation logic we have here for that reason. Something we could do though, to keep the naming conventions and the general styling the same, is another tip I wanted to show. We can grab all of these nodes. I'm going to press Shift Select to grab these nodes. And then if we right click on any one of the nodes we have selected here, we can choose to collapse this to a function of its own. And we're just going to call this one, you can probably guess, we're going to call this one handle rotation. Nice and obvious. If we have to dive through this and start reading through our code, we'd come from the plain base first of all, and we can see that if the event tick's running, if we have movement enabled, handle movement, and then this will jump out of the base class. So once this is done, this will then return us to our child class. So this has now been handled. The execution pin will be called, and then we'll start calling this. So we're handling movement if movement's enabled, and then we're handling rotation, again, if movement's enabled. Exactly the same results if we go and press play, nothing's changed. We're just making this much more kind of readable, maintainable. We're getting rid of that spaghetti code or even the potential of that happening here because we're in full control of our code base and how we wanted this to run. We're making use of inheritance, so we're saving a lot of time when we get to adding new features. At the moment, this might just feel like busy work, but it will definitely save you a lot of time in the long run, understanding what this is doing and how to make use of it. Whilst we're here, if you're inside of the plain base, if you're following along exactly, we can get rid of this message describing what the class is. We'll just get rid of that one, hit compile and save. The enemy we'll leave for now, and just double check that everything is saved in the player class, and that is the player refactor done. So you can see it wasn't really that painful. It took a little bit longer just because I wanted to explain these concepts and make them clear as we go. If I was doing that by myself, that probably would have been a 1-minute task. So even refactoring and completely reconsidering how the structure of classes are handled really doesn't need to take that long, especially if you're thinking early in development, which is why I'm trying to emphasize this as we go. Try and make these choices up front, and it's the difference of having a 1-minute refactor to a 1-hour refactor. If you're testing your code and something's broken or not working, just double check that all of your parent calls are connected. So these parent calls here, the orange nodes, are connected up and being called on the begin play, the event tick, and so on. Likewise, make sure that things are having the movement enabled is ticked in both the base class here and, more importantly, through this value up here, like I've just shown. Just a couple of gotchas there, which I can imagine some people might fall into. So just double check the things that we have been changing. For the next topic, of course, we're going to jump into the same thing, but for the enemy, and it should take a little bit less time now we've seen how to do it here. One thing I think I've forgotten to mention is if you wanted to get a little bit more involved with the community, share your progress, share your changes, ask for feedback, there is a Discord link in the description down below. Talking in the comments is great. If you're able to help others and ask for feedback, as I've mentioned, is a really good way to learn and speed up the process of learning something new. But of course, if you wanted to be a little bit more hands-on, sharing pictures, videos, things like that, then that's why I've created the Discord channel for those types of interaction.